Hello, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this is our sort of session one. We did session zero of Blaze in the Dark last time, building up our city and our setting and our characters. We're going to have a little reintroduction to those characters. We've got a little more setup to do. We're going to kind of look at the crew a little bit and the layer to kind of set things up before we move into a job. Before I get too much further, this session is part of the Open Hearth Gaming Community, which you can find more about at openhearthgaming.com. Uh, the videos that are published by various community members, those go up to our YouTube page, and they also get translated via an RSS feed into podcast versions if you want to listen to episodes. And we have our new Open Hearth podcast. We've done two episodes. We've got a third one dropping this week, which is basically community members talking about the game, a game that they played or read and really enjoyed. And we're going to get some new hosts in there to mix things up so it's not all old white dudes like me, and get that a little bit changed up at least. So before we go too much further, I just want to quickly go over what we have made for choices on lines and veils for safety tools. I won't do this every session, but I just want to, since this is only the sort of second session, I want to make sure we go over that. Right now, we have hard lines on sexual assault, torture by the PCs, and transphobia, and then veils for harm to children, homophobia, and sexism, misogyny. So just keep those things in mind. I'm going to go, we're going to work our way across the character keeper here, and have everybody tell us again who they are with their elevator pitch for their character, and remind us of your character's pronouns. So in first chair is our forger today. So Gwen, give us the elevator pitch in your character.
Sure. So I am playing, let's see, where did she go? Svetlana. She is a forger, maker of haunted machines. She's actually a member of the nation that is occupying, but she's been disgraced and exiled for her, actually for speaking up against the abuse and exploitation of the muckers or whatever that we're calling the lower class. Um, and so now she spends her days puttering around her little tinkering shop, enchanting objects for money. And she is, kind of a good with things, bad with people sort of individual.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And next is our leech.
Hi, folks. I am David S. He, him pronouns, and I am playing Cogito. They, them, any pronouns. Cogito is a person who has essentially lost much of their memory. They ended up with the philosophical zombies after sort of a fall from grace from a privileged family background, and since then have adopted this kind of biopunk transhumanist identity to where they only vaguely identify as human in the first place. They are focused primarily on carrying around their bandolier full of alchemical agents and bombs. They can do a little bit to tinker with people's bones, blood, and bodily humors to treat wounds and stabilize the dying. And they're kind of the saboteur technician sort of character. So there you go.
Excellent. And then our spider.
Hi everybody, I'm Ian. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm playing Lee Arthur Betancourt, Major Betancourt, if you please. Also he, him pronouns. Uh, Lee is the spider, the sort of mastermind uh, playbook. He is a double class trader, similar to Svetlana, came from the kind of uh, the unwashed masses of this city and sold out to enlist as an officer in the occupying military, um, and then was basically hung out to dry by them and didn't have anywhere else to go but down. He has a taste for fine things. He tries to, dress as well as he can, dine and, and drink as well as he can. I have the feeling that he's probably like an accountant or some other different kind of financial professional who does the best for himself that he can down here in uh, the sort of lower echelons of the city. Um, and he has a massive chip on his shoulder about uh, bringing down the sort of ruling class, not for any principle, only out of a sense of spite.
Okay.
He doesn't have any sort of magical abilities. He's just like really good at running the numbers and at kind of figuring out what the probabilities are going to be.
Excellent. I should mention for to go back to our forger and our leech, I did copy out the ritual and crafting section from Blades and put that in the folder on the Google Drive. It's also, if you have the copy of Blades, it's I think page 222 on has that material. It's very free form in that. Uh, but our last member of our illustrious team our coiner.
Yeah. Um, I'm Annie, she, her. I'm playing Raymond Comber. He, him. He also comes from a poor local family, was starting to gain some patronage as a young teen, had an opportunity to go to one of the illustrious schools. That went badly. He is now out on his own on the streets. In his early 20s, he is on the surface a low-level performer, busker, street artist, jack of all trades. Um, has some skills with illusion and maybe some less obvious skills that are not on public display, but do come into some of the more subversive activities that our group gets up to.
Excellent. So we have a sense of you together. We have some threads of sort of revolt against the Drylanders. I've also called them the Way Wardens. That's how they probably describe themselves. But probably the Dries, the Dryers, the Drylanders are probably all these terms that are used for that. And they're probably equally valid terms for the Wetlanders that we'll figure out as we go along. But you have been together for a bit. You have a tier one group, which means any kind of cohort or gang that you have is about 3 to 8 people, sort of kind of give you a sense of that size. And you have a little bit probably better status location. But we're going to talk about what that crew actually looks like. So I'm going to take us to the crew sheet and we're going to kind of bounce around a little bit on this in terms of figuring some things out. One of the first ones is down on row 29 and 30. You when we talked about things last time, people were interested in sort of thieves and smugglers. And so what I've done, and I've taken the favorite operations from both of those. So we got that. And I want to have us choose essentially our four operations that we think our crew want to be interested in, that would kind of make a new hybrid kind of thieves smuggler thing here. So Gwen, of these eight here, which one do you definitely want to have as a favored type of thing that will generate extra XP for your crew?
Hmm. Um, that's such a good question. I mean, we had talked a little bit about wanting to kind of stay a little closer to kind of like the classic experience with this stuff. So, I mean, that for me, that sounds like burglary, but arcane weird cargo better get in there eventually too, or something like it. So I'll go with burglary to start
Okay,
though.
we'll start with burglary. Okay, so I'm going to bold that one there. Uh, and then Kogito.
Um, I, I'm gonna say I want us to mix it up a little bit with opposing groups, like a bunch of bad guy smugglers that we have to kind of go up against. So,
Okay,
or so maybe sabotage, if we can put that in there too.
sure. So burglary, sabotage. Lee?
Maybe just because I've been recently watching the TV show Silo, which, by the way, would make its own great Forge in the Dark. Uh,
Hmm.
and that show features a lot of, you know, a community that is basically occupied, and they have a lot of like, when we say that this city is under military occupation, what that speaks to me about is checkpoints and roadblocks. So I think I'd like to say passengers.
Okay, interesting. There are people that need to get so at that suggests that we do have districts and areas that have strong checkpoints. We've got the high levels, probably different neighborhoods in the bottom levels. Certainly, we have the idea that both with the waterworks and the fallen ruins, there are probably some real physical breaks between areas of the city. And then we've got those underground with the caverns and things. So yeah, lots of nice, very distinct areas. And then Remy, what do you want for the last one?
Once again, we're on the same page here because I was going to say either sabotage or passengers, so I'll bring in the arcane and weird cargo.
Okay, excellent. So we will do that. So we'll come back to our hunting grounds in a moment. We're going to kind of talk about sort of the neighborhood that you're in or associated with, and we'll choose a faction that you kind of owe for getting you set up there. But let's talk about special abilities. You will have two special abilities for your crew. You're going to start with those. And in a standard Blades book, we would have a list of seven or eight. But instead, to make it even more complicated, down below all of this, on row 48, I've kind of put like a big manifest of the different crew special abilities that we can choose from. Uh, so I want us to think about like what kind of thing we would want. And I'm going to come back again to you, Gwen. Uh, 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 One of the classic ones is to, as a crew special ability, essentially everybody gets to choose an extra action point in one of three different abilities, essentially taken from each of the categories. That's a classic one. It differs across all of those. Um, Taking less heat is another good one. Um, Plus one die to resistance rolls. There are a lot of good ones in there. Anything as you're looking through that, Gwen, that strikes you or appeals to you?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I just realized that there's plus one die to resistance rolls. That sounds useful. But then there's one about five down, which is plus one dies to resistance rolls versus arrests of being discovered when fleeing. So you've got one that applies to all,
Hmm.
or you can just have one apply to some, which makes my mechanical head say, well, choose the all one, right? Because it's more powerful. But I like the flavor of the lower one because I like the idea that we've been operating, we're smuggling, we're people, objects, and that's going to be, we need to be able to get through these checkpoints and be good at it. So the idea that we might have kind of learned to survive the occupation, we're less likely to get caught. So I mean, that one might be good. Is
I
there
like
anything
that.
else? I mean, I think I'll probably just go with that, but it's a long list. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I mean, sure, let's just do that one.
Okay. And I think your point, so this one is taken from the new Dagger Isles cruise. I kind of
Mm,
borrowed it from there. So we may play on it kind of being perhaps a little more effective than it's mechanically written there, I think is a
Okay.
reasonable thing to do. We're going to put that in there. I love it when it automatically does the word wrap on it. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's our first special ability. We're going to have some upgrades too in a minute, but we're going to choose a second special ability, Kogito.
You said two. Like the first two that you said, one of them was like you get +1 in three different areas, and then there was one about reducing heat, I think.
There's one that you get one less heat during downtime, and then you choose a group that you get an additional die when you gather information on them. Another one is you choose three actions, each taken from a different category like insight, prowess, and resolve. Like you could choose hunt, finesse, or attune, and everybody would get an extra die in one of those. Basically, it's a free extra action die.
Oh, okay. I like that one. Does everyone okay with that?
Okay.
Okay. Now where is that on the
Uh,
list here?
I think I may have accidentally scrubbed that one when I was moving things around, but we will put it together. Basically, each crew member may take +1 die in X, Y, or Z. So, uh, David, which one from Insight do you want to be the potential +1?
Okay, and this should be something that I think thematically like defines our team a little bit more. Like we're all
Yeah,
kind of potentially good in this,
yes.
right? So,
And it is reasonable to min-max on these choices at this point as well.
okay. I mean, I'm open to if anyone wants to jump in with suggestions, feel free to unmute and just shout them out. I'm thinking survey. I mean, everyone but me has a point in that already, but does
It's a,
that sound reasonable, or does anyone take any
it's
survey?
a good information gathering, all-purpose one. It works. It works well.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Lee, what do you want from prowess as the extra die one?
Um, I'm sort of vibing with so we each get to have one extra in each of these
Oh
categories.
no, you're going to put these three on here, and then everybody's going to pick one of these categories that you get that one of these that you get the extra die in.
Well, I like what Kogoda started here with. Um, it seems like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like
Hmm.
being able to avoid trouble is better than being able to solve trouble. So I'm gonna say prowl.
Prowl. Okay. And then Annie, what from resolve do you think we people could potentially get an extra die in?
So slightly different angle on the same thing. I think we've been suggesting connections and contacts that is maybe where we get our passengers, maybe where we're selling our gear.
Hmm.
So I think that says consort.
Okay. All right. And so everyone gets to pick. Do you want an extra die in survey, or do you want it in prowl, or do you want it in consort?
And do we all have to pick the same one, or can we all pick
Nope.
different ones?
You may
Okay,
all
just
pick different ones.
cool.
That then brings us to your crew upgrades. And there are a number of things that you can choose. And we're going to go back sort of Catan order. We're going to go back the other direction. There are crew upgrades that are available with some pull downs. There you see under where it says crew upgrades. So, like find building plans, you could choose that, or find charts, or find entertaining space, or find infirmary, or find library, or find occult library. Um, these are all mutually exclusive because of the way that this is set up. So if you choose a fine library, you don't get the other fine ones as an available choice. But there are six different drop downs there. Those cost one upgrade pick out of the six that you have. You could also we look to the side of that, you could improve your layer, get yourself a carriage, you get yourself a boat, you could have your layer be hidden, you could have living quarters there, you could make it more secure, you could have a nice vault to store your money, or you could have a workshop. Those ones with two dots, two boxes, means that the first pick gets you the lower version, and there's a higher version when you take the second pick on it. You could also choose that everybody has quality versions of some kind of item, like documents, gear, implements, pets, supplies, tools, weapons. That means that it has, everybody has it and it's nice quality. The other thing there is training. Training would mean that when you use as your downtime action a pick to go to train in a particular category, you get 2 XP instead of 1 XP. And that's for insight, prowess, resolve, or masteries for new special abilities. I will say that one is easy and appealing, but it is also better, I think, for a long-term game. Except for the mastery one is always kind of nice to get more special abilities. The other thing that you can pick beyond those upgrades, layers, quality, and training is you could take a cohort, essentially a specialized gang that you have that operates at your tier. And there are several different kinds. You could get uh, magical adepts, you could get assassins, you could get thieves, brigands, stealthy folks, thugs, or if you wanted to have healers, like physicians in your group too, could do that. So 6 points for this. Annie, is anything appealing to you?
So under the arcade market, I'm looking at the underground maps and passkeys.
Hmm, that's nice. Yeah, you want that?
I like it. Yeah.
Okay. So we know that we have the caverns and passages. We know that we've got these fallen ruins and things that are around. So you have keys, maps, that sort of thing. We'll talk about what those keys look like as we go along. We're going to start with that one. Lee.
Uh, I would like to. I know that this might end up taking up some extra points, but I'd like to stake a strong claim on boat. Maybe it's just because, Lee Arthur is like a guy of getting closer to middle age. He wants
Yeah.
something to work on. But I have this image of, we've described this city of like waterfalls, a city with a lot of verticality, with a lot of bridges. And in my mind, I have a very like Mobius comics, like here's a sort of a canyon-like gulf between uh like habitation blocks or skyscrapers
Okay.
that like a floating ship, like a flying skiff or something could like maneuver in between.
Okay. So your layer has little docks. You have access to a nice boat to start out with. I think that's fair if folks are good with that.
I
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to go for the double boat here.
Okay.
The
That's a
the
big boat.
armored, the
Yeah.
fast armored boat.
And then we come back to Svetlana.
Well, Svetlana clearly wants a workshop.
Okay. Put that in. So we've got workshop, underground maps, and passkeys. Cogito?
Can you tell me a little bit more about the rigging options here? Because
Yeah.
yeah.
So what you do, basically right now, you can choose to be standard or conspicuous. Conspicuous means your characters can mark up to 6 load worth of items. Regular, where you don't look like you're scary. You can't take anything heavy, and you can mark up to 4 load worth of items. If you take thief rigging, you can choose a class like weapons or armor or something like that that are effectively 2 extra dots worth of load that you can do. And you can take heavy items than of any kind when you're doing discrete.
Got it. And then there's a couple other rigging options here. But out of all of them, I kind of think thief rigging is the one I that feels better to me.
Yes, it is. It is the best one.
Okay.
It's a little bit different than it was in the original book because of the way we were handling load, but I think that is a very good choice actually.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Uh, Annie, we've still got 2 points left. When I come back to you, is there something that appeals to you?
I would like to put a point towards a secure layer.
That also seems like a reasonable choice. Uh, which brings us back to Lee. Lee, I know you're not taking a bigger boat, because
As much as I
we
would
don't
like.
need a bigger boat. What would you like as the last pick here?
Oh my gosh. Uh, I think I'm interested in um an elite cohort.
Okay,
Um,
what kind?
well, I'm just looking at the names here and I'm sort of interpreting based on what is there. It seems like what we're trying to do as a group is to pass without notice.
Hmm.
So I think maybe elite shadows makes sense.
Okay, then we are going to do that. You have a small gang of elite shadows. They are your cohort there. Um, we'll talk later about their edges and flaws, because they all these cohorts have some of those, but we know that they have are good at sneaking around.
We're scaling up our operation here, you know.
Yes, preparations. Um, the last question I want to ask here, I've got sort of two things. Uh, David, kind of have you kind of take lead on this, and this is a question because one of the XP questions that we ask at the end about the crew is, did you live up to your crew's reputation, or did you develop a new one? Um, in case you started out with an idea and then the group, for example, in the last game that I ran, they eventually got the reputation of collateral damage over time, rather than their initial one, which actually was discreet. So looking at the sort of drop down list of reputations, which one might you think the group wants to start with?
I'm so sorry. What is where is the drop down list for
So now
reputations?
I've jumped us back up to the top on row 3, right next to
Oh, there it is.
name.
Okay. So we have eight to select from: ambitious,
Yeah.
brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, and strange. Hmm. Okay. Um, let's go daring.
Hearing. Interesting.
Let's make it
Okay.
dramatic.
All right. And it is possible to develop a second rep that can be developed over time, rather than just a contradictory one. So we're going to start with daring. Uh, Svetlana, I'm going to ask one last question, something to think about. Your group has a contact, someone that you can call on, a strong contact. What what kind of group do we want that contact to be from? Are they from the nobility? Are they from one of the magical orders? Are they from a highly placed crime family? What 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 do we want for that?
Well, I mean, if I don't remember very much of other people's backgrounds off the top of my head, but I do remember mine. And so maybe one option would be like a laborers guild or something. They're everywhere, but then there nobody notices them doing the work. They know the back ways and everything.
So like a laborers guilder kind of highly placed person or a four person?
Yeah, Yeah,
Okay.
like a foreman or yeah, like a four person or some sort of manager, like some sort of leader of that organization.
Absolutely. We're going to call them Pavali. So
Cavalli.
Pavali is a contact that you have from the Laborers Guild.
Mhm.
Um, so they have, because they're friends of yours, uh, they make you friends with somebody else. If we look at the factions. So who do you think your group then has +1 status with of the various things? There's a number of people under labor and trade that we have there, or city institutions.
Hmm. Does tier manage matter here?
Does not matter.
Okay. Um, no, so I mean, because I went with let's see, I would go with, I mean, off the top of my head, maybe electrotechnicians
Okay.
or water workers. What do you think, gang?
Strong feelings either way.
I definitely like something in the labor department here.
Okay.
I mean, we seem to be like very focused on our boat. That's at least some of us do seem to be
Yeah.
so focused. So maybe water workers would work,
Okay.
you know?
Oh, sorry. +1.
Maybe they know the sewer inlets and outlets and all of this sort of.
On the other hand, being friends with this person, Pavali, also takes you out of favor with someone else. So
Hmm.
who is it that doesn't like Pavali?
Oh, I actually think it should be the Great Exchange.
Okay.
Labor versus management, clearly.
Abs Absolutely. So you have a -1 rep with the Great Exchange and a +1 rep with the water workers. Uh, Now, the last thing is to decide regarding your area. Um, you will have started basically in a position where the some other faction, often criminal, most often criminal, are the people that set you up, gave you your hunting grounds that you can work with, helped you out in that regard, got you in that position here. Um, and within that hunting ground, which we'll kind of like talk about and describe, you operate a little bit better. You've got a favorite operation type. We'll kind of talk about that. But when you did that, we kind of make it kind of establish that you have a relationship with that group. So, uh, Annie, any one of these groups, do you think, probably criminal underworld, but might be others, who do you think it is that got you set up as smugglers, thieves, that gave you the space, that were willing to cut you a deal on that?
Goes over. And do we have any other information on some of these? Some of these I recognize, but some are new.
No, we are playing to find out in a lot of cases here.
Hmm.
A number of the criminal organizations,
Um,
I made sure I gave you ones that were kind of on par peer groups that I
right,
generated.
right. I'm kind of drawn to the foundlings.
Okay,
Hidden nomadic bandits
okay.
seems in line with what we do.
Let me ask you this then, David. When you got set up by these nomadic bandits, they move around the city. But they had control of an area. They were willing to give you a settled place. Uh, do you think that you paid them a single coin out of your coffers, of which you have two at the start? In which case you're neutral with them. Or did you pay all of your coin, in which case you have +1 status with them and they like you? Or did you keep all your money and they're a little resentful that they gave you your place.
Let's go with one.
Okay, all right. So we know that these nomads help set you up. You know, they have some pull. They are the people that, when the time comes, you pay them a coin to keep you in their good graces, uh, or they ask you to do something, and if you don't pay them, they start getting a little upset with you. So that is what is up with that. So we know our layer has a dock. We know that it's on a body of water. We know it's in the lower areas. We know that we've got a lot of different rivers and levels. I imagine there are probably some locks and canals and things to move around to different sections given how divided the city is. I've also been imagining that there is a vast difference in the humidity in this bayou from the lower levels that we operate on till we get to the sort of the Skylander areas and the Drylander areas up top, where it's probably very crisp and they don't have to worry about running dehumidifiers constantly, and black mold and all of that kind of thing. So, uh, what kind of place do you have? Is it an abandoned warehouse? Is it a decaying clock tower? Is it a former school? Is it an underground dungeon that's been converted? Uh, Gwen, thoughts on that? What kind of place do we want to have for our layer?
Okay. Am I choosing from a drop-down list or
I have no
just
drop-down list.
okay, just want to
This
make
is,
sure I
yeah,
wasn't missing a drop-down somewhere.
exactly.
All
No,
right.
I've got too many of them on here already. So,
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what I think it might be kind of fun to have our lair in like an abandoned pump works.
ooh,
Like I'm imagining there's this big like, like a water processing plant sort of thing that connects to the sewers and we have a connection with the water people so they know to stay away or whatever. And this will get us avenues, our secret passageways all over the area,
so
the
old
local area.
old pump works. What do you think happened that they gave up, on this place? Did they, it was funding cut? Was there an accident? Did something get in here? What do you think the reason is that they no longer use the this pump works?
I think it was severely damaged when the occupation occurred.
Okay.
And rather than fix it to provide plentiful clean water to the muckers, the drylanders kind of abandoned it and created something much shoddier elsewhere.
Okay. Uh Cogito, uh tell me, uh this workshop that you have here, uh like, is it a tight area or is it a sprawling area because you've got a number of different people that work on different devices, or are there multiple levels to it? Like, what do we think that workshop is?
I'm thinking more big and sprawling. You kind of come in and you sort of get off of your boat or whatever. You walk through the entryway, and you have kind of this big open room. Smaller, obviously, in height than an airplane hangar, but not by much. So it's big, it's echoey. There are balconies that you can climb onto, and maybe some scaffolding that you can kind of walk across. Lots of tables and workstations just splattered all over the place. I'm thinking kind of like it's a big operation.
Okay. I like it. So big, I'm picturing very much like the classic Batman animated series, the internal factory, things that are always much taller inside than they ought to be, and lots of areas and levels and old machinery working there that is broken down. Um, Tell me, Lee, what is the dock and the boat like?
Uh, the boat flies.
Okay.
I'm thinking very like yeah, like Mobius Treasure Planet style
Okay.
here. And the the dock, I think, is um I think that this facility had like a skylight or something,
Hmm.
like a big not in like a decorative sense, but just in a kind of like, hey, this is a big factory, it's cheaper to have some glass. Uh, that like part of that's like part of the damage is that the the skylight was shattered at some point, and so there's just like um creeping vines and like hanging moss and probably like trickles of water like flowing in through the ceiling. And it takes a little bit of it takes a careful hand at the rudder, but you can like just slide the boat, you can just sort of dip the boat right down into the like through the ceiling of the
Nice. Nice. So you've got a little bit of an interior dock kind of then up towards in the rafters that it can slide into.
Yeah, and there's like a catwalk or something there that we have kind of rigged up.
Absolutely. Gotta love a catwalk. That is the best. And Remy, um, what makes this facility secure? Is it hard to get to? Are there traps? Is it heavily reinforced? Is it magical wardings? What do you think is the thing that provides security?
Um, I think a combination, it's probably primarily hard to get to because, this would have been a big, noisy facility, not something people want in their backyard. Um, with the damage, a lot of the typical entrances um, would have either been destroyed, blocked, hard to find, and we've enhanced that. We've made any of those passages that are still available look like they're about to fall in or look like there's a big pit right inside the entrance. And we know how to get past that, but not everybody would.
Nice concealed, got those secured, drive people in particular lanes. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. So we've got this layer, big, big honking thing. We've got that. Uh, Svetlana, tell me something about the neighborhood surrounding this. I'm going to ask this of everybody. I want to get one detail from everybody about the neighborhood, and then I'm going to ask you a question about what your character space looks like within the
Mm.
the actual place. So, but first, let's start with the neighborhood to get a sense of that. So, Svetlana, tell
Mm.
me something about the neighborhood around.
I think the neighborhood we are around in, we're in the low city, so to speak, let's say it's called, and we're in Old Town, which is the central district of the kind of community before occupation. And all the buildings and structures here are, well, older, a century old sometimes or more, um, which, in a swamp is, a lot of erosion and decay. And the area was damaged in the occupation, war damage is, and it's never been fully recovered. So there are, built kind of areas where there's just rubble and there's buildings with explosion, like with a wall blown out that still stands and, all of that. But it's also a living community of the people that have remained. And in it, one of the things in it is an old pump works that we, are hiding in the bottom of.
Okay. David, Kogito, tell me something else about this neighborhood that around you, a feature, a detail, a location, a cafe, or a horror show, whatever, or a cafe horror show. I don't know.
Let me think here then. Yeah, what if there is a cafe, and on certain nights they have these sort of unconventional poetry readings. Like people from the area come and bring, Probably a little on the transgressive, maybe creepy, offbeat sort of poetry. And maybe you even can get sort of these um tips about what's going on in the city sort of hidden in the poetry readings. Like people are sort of got these secret codes and secret messages that they're inputting into their poetry.
I like that. So ciphers, secret codes. We've got maybe restricted language, restricted literature from the occupation, and we've also got this idea of magic involving signs and sigils and meaning that has drifted down here that can get tied up in that. I dig that. Um, Lee, what's another thing in the area in the neighborhood around?
I think that this neighborhood actually makes up some of the foundations of the city above. So there are lots of highly, tenement apartments piled high and close together. Um, some of these are like leaning at crazy angles because of the swamp.
Hmm.
Um, so some people are living in these apartments at like a, 20-25 degree angle. Um, and there are, as we have established already, lots of bridges in between. It's a lot easier to, walk across the bridge to the eighth story on the other side than it is to go down to street level, not least of which is because of this miasma that we keep talking about.
Yeah. That certainly hangs down at the level that you and your crew live. Um, a little bit like if you've seen the videos of the Chinese cities that are very vertical with the different go in a building, you have to go down the stairs and then go here and then you go down another level, but with bridges effectively through here.
I'm imagining I have a very strong image of like a coral reef here, where like a small creature might uh hide in the small nooks and crannies to avoid a larger predator.
Absolutely. You mentioned sort of the Mega City One look for some of the buildings too. I imagine you've got leanings. You said the foundations. I imagine that some of these taller buildings actually serve as pillars or supporting columns for bigger things up above, as secondary load-bearing structures. Uh, Remy, what's one more thing that we see that we know about the neighborhood?
I think this touches on one end of the caverns where the aqua farming takes place. And a lot of that is a major economic lifeline for the area, for the city. But there's also a small entrance that not many people know about just into this neighborhood. And there's a little food stall just outside that entrance that sells the best fish wraps in the city. And
Mm,
nobody quite knows why they're that good.
I like it. Fried fish wraps, roasted, braised, more raw.
Um, I think mostly roasted. You can
Okay.
get raw, but only there's a particular kind of leaf they have to use where the sap interacts to make it good to eat.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Uh, so Svetlana, we come in, we see that the size of our layer here, some of it occupied. I mean, it's much bigger, maybe more ambitious for you than more space than you actually necessarily need. Um, what does Svetlana's area of this look like? I mean, do you have a separate room? Is it you're part of a workshop? Like, what do we see for you? What does your zone look like?
So inside this waterwork, which is a subterranean like warehouse space full of old rusted pipes and tanks, there's an exceptionally large tank, like 15, 20, let's say 20, 30 feet wide,
Okay.
like 15 feet tall, a big cylinder squat thing where they probably used to dump water and put chemicals in it to process it, etc. And there's a door-sized hole that's been wet, like it's been cut, with like a cutting torch or something right in the side of it, and it's been kind of like welded to have a softer rounded edges. And inside is her workshop slash living space, because all it really is a workshop filled with junk. But in the back, there's a simple curtain drawn on like metal rings on a rusty rod, and behind it is a hammock and a commode and a chest of her like personal effects. And that is about it. It is very Spartan space.
Yeah.
And the whole place, including her everything, all of her clothes, her skin, her hair, smells of like grease.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, and Kagato, uh, what does your space look like in here?
Um, I'm thinking it's just off of the workshop. Like there's basically a curtain that you go through, and within is this sort of cavernous space. I mean, our workshop, is it sort of a subterranean bit or is it more a structure? I'm trying to remember.
We've described it as being above, but we could certainly like there may be like passages underground. Could certainly discover that there's walkways and exits for these secret tunnels.
Okay, got it. So maybe it's kind of like a little bit of both. You kind of go through this curtain. And in front of you is a passageway that proceeds forward for a few meters, and then there's a few steps down, and it proceeds forward a few more meters, few steps down, and you descend down this passageway until you get to what maybe at one point was kind of like a locker room.
Hmm.
There's all these different storage lockers, some of them for personal effects, others for equipment. And I've kind of shoved all of this to the side to make it into what I hope will eventually be like my own little alchemy lab.
Okay.
So there are these stained beakers that have dust and dirt encrusted on the inside, and you have to scrub them out with a wire brush. There's rusted, I'm trying to think of what chemistry equipment's called, but you got these rusted little things that you put test tubes in and hold them.
Hmm.
And right now, the whole thing hasn't completely come together yet. It looks very much abandoned, but I've got a cot in there, and I've probably rigged up like a shower that spews essentially swamp water out of it, and that's about the closest to clean as I'm gonna get. That's kind of the setup I'm picturing in there.
Okay. And then Major Lee, um, what does your space look like here?
I imagine that Mr. Major Betancourt has like a small apartment somewhere else in the city, which is like his official address.
Hmm.
But he keeps most of his like fine things here because they're less likely to get confiscated that way. Um, Lee uh, has claimed the like foreman's office
Mm.
that overlooks the like facility floor. It's like hanging from the ceiling and has like big windows the um, so that the whole place can be seen. Many of those windows are broken and
Hmm.
they have been sort of like covered over with like heavy waxed paper or something like this. He makes decent money at his day job, but a lot of it goes into keeping this place dry. Because he has some things here that he puts a lot of stock in. Tea bags, um, he keeps a little like a wardrobe, I think. And most of all, the most important luxury of all of these is his phonograph, which if, it gets wet or if the cylinders get wet, um, well,
It's
they're basically no good at that
yeah.
point.
Yeah, the warping is the threat there.
So often, often you can find him on a kind of patchworked couch in the foreman's office, trying to focus on the sound of the ballet over the sort of constant humming of the dehumidifiers that he
Hmm.
has here.
Excellent. And what about for Remy? What does Remy's space look like?
Since the foreman's office is claimed, I think Grammy has taken over what used to be the admin office and the file room. Um, all of those papers, whatever was left in there, has gone into various art projects, paper mache, collage around the city. Just random waterworks records will show up. He has also claimed not our catwalk, but there's a original walkway around the top of the open space that gets good light from above, and that is Remy's gallery. So all of the walls up there are painted over. There are whatever kind of workstation takes his fancy that day. Sometimes it's an easel, sometimes he's sculpting, sometimes there's a big paper mache station there. No kind of order, very pack rat. The office is very magpie. This is no setup I caught. This is piles of cushions and blankets and soft things and colorful things everywhere.
Nice. All right. We're going to take our first break here. We're going to take 10. We're going to come back, and you've got a job to do at that point. So take 10, and we'll come back to that. So again, the sky has to be truly strange because you don't get all that much access to direct sunlight down here. You've got the damp, but probably the cold and the damp, and maybe in some areas where you've got some industrial or heat sinks, you do get, the humidity. But you've also got the fact that this is a moon, and we've got other moons in the sky, and they move around irregularly, changing, eclipses and so on. I imagine we've suggested that the day-night cycle is very strange around here and difficult to track. But uh, we will get word through one of your agents that someone from one of the groups, this time the Bayou Biohackers, one of their representative agents has come up out of the sewers and has asked to meet with you, has a job they want to offer you. And we would cut forward to somewhere in your neighborhood, but not necessarily in your base. And we see uh, this biohacker who himself just looks damp, I think is how I want to describe that. Uh, Multi-layered clothing, uh, has a bit of dirt and algae and things in his long hair, uh, but tries to kind of keep a professional look. He's the one they send topside, and has come to talk to the four of you, and he will introduce his name as Ram. He is Ram Schned, and he will say, "My colleagues in the biohacking community, as you know, we service a lot of people. We assist with some of the serum folk and others. We're well placed. Um, we have a task that we need to have accomplished that we do not currently have the personnel or perhaps even the level of information necessary to do this. And you all have come fairly well regarded. So we have reason to believe, and by reason to believe, I mean, we have evidence to this, is that there has been a shipment in of some flowers, seeds, and plant materials from the Drylander moon. Uh, there's some reason to believe that there's a Drylander general plot to start changing out the vegetation in the Alcazar, change out the flowers, to try to vary the bioscape, as they say. Um, that's that's not something we want, but we also, as importantly, would like to get our hands on these materials. We know which dock in the sky docks this material is being held at. We have a couple of days window. We want you all to go up there to get the material and to move it to a location in the Undercity, deliver it there, and you will be paid handsomely for this. Is this something you think your crew could handle? I think there is a moment where the Rom kind of looks around. He's trying to figure out like who the leader is, who the like probably looks at Lee, who is maybe the cleanest, I want to say, of the crew, but then seems uncertain.
Capability isn't the question,
Ah, ah,
Master Schned. Um,
Master, I like it when you say that. There's a real ring to it.
what we need to determine is simply the particulars of the job, and that will determine our fee. Um, I hope that uh, I hope that you've heard from your contacts uh, that we take half up front and half on completion of the job.
I had heard that that would be a thing you'd be asking for, and I was also realized that you'll be paid when the job is complete.
I see. Well,
But the payment will be generous, and the favor that we will read into it will also be commiserably generous as well.
in that case, Master Schned, that I would certainly like to gain some information at the very least. Is there anything particularly illicit, hazardous, arcane about the material in question?
Oh, I hope so.
Now, it is, as far as we can tell, so far as we know, it is not magical in nature. We do not believe that it is deadly or physically dangerous, uh, but it is unique. And the sense we have is that it may be a little fragile. In other words, we don't want to subject it to uh, uh, chemical contamination or rapid temperature changes or that kind of thing. It is biological material. We have a sense of which warehouse it's in. You may have to locate it within that warehouse up on the docks, but it shouldn't be too much of a trouble. Uh, and move it on down to another warehouse in Undercity. A simple task.
I understand. Here's how this is going to work, Master Schned.
Mhm.
Out.
I'm accepting you saying that because you keep saying master, and I like it.
We're professionals. We are going to determine the particulars that are needed for this job. Um,
Yes.
you're going to leave here, and you're going to be wearing your best dejected face. Have you ever dealt with the Alcazar before, Master Schned?
I have I have had an encounter before, yes.
Then you'll know the symbolic value that it carries for the for the way wardens.
Yes.
Um, they are almost certainly monitoring this conversation, or they may have had you followed even. You're going to leave here with the best dejected face that you can manage. You will hear from us when we have the material in hand.
I'm saddened, right? Okay. So yes, I'm saddened. Here is a paper with the location details for you as we have them for delivery, and I'm going away without satisfaction, right?
Uh, Thank you for coming to see us today, Master Schned. Truly, it's my regret that we weren't able to do any business. Wink.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And
but Remy's kind of bouncing. He's been trying to be patient and let Lee take the lead, but
I just totally
so
imagine the guy has like a nictating membrane over his eye too when he blinks, you know.
Mhm. But so if someone were, which we are not going to do, we're upstanding citizens, if someone were to remove this shipment, that's going to be noticed. It would be clever to replace it with something. And it would be really funny to replace it with something that we want to be installed there that they wouldn't maybe notice beforehand. Of course, we're
see
not
him.
going to do
Yes,
that, but
yes, yes,
if you
yes.
knew of anything,
Uh, you're being paid for the cleverness which I myself and my compatriots lack. So I will leave that in your more than inestimable hands, and go out and weep great tears at not being able to engage your services.
well, big
Puts his
dramatic
hand on his
bow.
head and heads out. Um,
Remy is now entirely occupied with this idea and is thinking through what would
okay.
work.
Uh, so I mean, it's the basic starting point here. I kind of move a little bit fast because it's our sort of first kind of trial. So we see the engagement role and all of that kind of thing. Uh, is the base obstacle is that we've got this shipment of some kind up in the sky docks that needs to be gotten out and gotten on the move, as it were. Uh, so uh, we're kind of looking, I always like to go back to the page that talks about how to resolve the engagement role. Let's go with that. Mhm. For our score. So the question is, uh, trying to get in to get this stuff, to get at it. Uh, we can look at a couple of different plans that would work, and then we'll figure out the detail. Do we think this is a question of setting up a deception to get in? Do we think it's a question of stealth to try and avoid being noticed? Or do you think it is more a question of getting the right thing to transport this out, or bribery to get access in? We kind of start with figuring out that. Leaves out a couple of the options. Um, Lee, what thoughts do you have? What appeals to you?
I think that the key word that you mentioned there was fragile.
Yes.
Doesn't seem to me like a high speed getaway is uh is in the cards here. And oh, I should have pinned down Rom to give us like a specific figure. Um, we've got one coin. I'm thinking this is maybe a spend a little money to make a little more money type situation.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe this is a bribe.
That seems reasonable. So a little social tactic to get yourself an opening to get at this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Folks good with that as the starting point? So let's go to uh social wise. Bum, 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 bum. Let me ask then, Remy, who is the person that is your in? Kind of decided that this is going to be involving spending a little coin, bribing our way in. So who is this person that you get to make this agreement?
Um, so even with an in, we still want to keep this low key. So I think we look for somebody who is involved in cargo handling. Um, we could pull on, if the gondoliers have a contact, we could go through my friend Quest.
Okay. So yeah, that gives you a contact, call on Quest to kind of set things up to be the person who's going to assist you on this.
Yeah,
Um,
just arrange a delivery. We're going to make a
Absolutely.
delivery, pick up some cargo, and get out of there.
So let's look at the engagement roll. So it's one die for sheer luck. We just go from there. And then is the operation particularly bold or daring? I think not particularly necessarily bold or daring, but also I don't think it's too complicated. Like we're not relying on a bunch of different factors. So I think that kind of evens out. Does that seem reasonable to folks? Um, does the plan's detail expose a vulnerability of the target or hit them where they're weakest? Hmm. Any thoughts on that?
Well, depending on the justification, the way in which we, for example, take the package out, because the bribe might be just to look the other way when we go in and out. But like this is a storage area at a docks. There's going to be lots of packages moving around all the time, loading
Yeah,
and unloading. So we might be able to pass as just another one of those,
that
blend into the
seems
traffic.
that seems reasonable. And let's give you an extra die for the friends and contacts. So, gosh, this seems like no problem. No problem whatsoever. It's just three dice for
So
the engagement roll. And I think this is the first dice that we're rolling. So, who wants to be the first person to make this roll so that you don't have to for a while for the engagement roll? This is how this works. It's like stepping up to the line and then stepping back so somebody else gets picked. But who wants to do the first engagement roll? Come on.
I can,
Okay,
I guess. Yeah.
three dice, Kagito.
All right. And these are D6s, yes.
D6s.
Okay, one, two, three, and roll. Five is high.
Five is
Couple twos.
high. So we cut to you chatting with your uh, friend uh, Cass, who gets you over there, gets you up to the place, tells you, here are the people that you need to talk to, here are the skydockers, and here is the location of the material. They actually, you're not going to have to hunt around inside the warehouse to locate the objects. Um, but think you will get in there. You've planned it, you've consulted with the astrological charts, so you have a little bit of darkness to guide you as you make your way in. You've done the bribe, you've gotten to the area, but when you get there, you will find there are a couple of issues. Besides it being fragile, you've been told that, you will realize that there are two crates and they are quite large. They are quite large and heavy. As you kind of go to move them, you're like, oh, this is going to be a little more than we thought. But the other thing is, uh, the first crate is heavy and you move it along. But when you go to move the second crate, there is a kind of a shifting sound and then a smell. It is a rich, redolent, uh, animal fecal, sharp smell that begins to come out of that container and carries in a way that you find profoundly disturbing. So tell me, what do you want to do about things now? Now we're going to kind of start with a go around and we're going into the actions. Um, Gwen, let's start with your character here, in this case with Svetlana.
Well, let's see. Um, so one thing I think I will do is I could use my ghost in the machine ability here,
Okay,
right? Which cause I can call on a spirit to infuse itself into any inanimate object and cause it to move on its own,
you could,
like
yes.
the big heavy crate. I could just have it grow little legs and whoop, and just slowly walk along for us. That won't help with the smell, but it might free us up to do something about that other than just having us all there pushing and pulling. Because I get the vision I got was that this is a big enough crate that just transporting it physically will be a challenge. Am I wrong about that? Or
Oh yeah, you would definitely need a cart or something to get it back and onto your boats. But with this, you could overcome that issue. Um,
okay,
that will require you marking two stress.
yes, okay, because it's two large crates.
Yeah.
Okay,
But so
where
we
are
see
my?
you do this. Tell us what we see. Like, how do we see you do this? What do the
Hmm.
other PCs see you do when you go to invoke this ghost in the machine on these two? And imagine them, and I'm not saying any, not implying anything by this, but two coffin-sized big boxes that are quite heavy, and one of them has a stench on it. No other
Hmm.
implications. I don't know why I said coffin size. It's just a reference point. So, tell me, what does this look like when you use your ability to do this?
So she walks up and she kind of eyeballs them. She does a walk around, kind of taps it with her foot, pulls out her wrench and kind of is tapping it, and then she goes, yeah, I can take care of these." Sticks it away, pulls out this little, looks like an atomic age ray gun, and she points it at the boxes, and she's clicking, and you're hearing this clicking sound, and nothing's happening. Damn it. She cracks it open, she spits in it and closes it back up, and then aims it, and you hear there's just like this little whoa, 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 whoa sound. And she said, there you go. Yeah, you. And she's pointing at empty space. Yeah, you there, get in there. Yep, 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 yep. And she like, then you see her like coax these in something invisible into these as though you would kind of corral animals. And then she's like, all right, let's go this way, this way. And so then she's going to be corralling these around as if she's, kind of like guiding, puppies.
Absolutely. So these giant boxes, you all will see it moving on their own
Little
through
legs.
there with Svetlana kind of leading them on. It is a little conspicuous at this moment, but you can get them mobile and get moving. Kagito, what do we see you doing here?
So at this point, just to be clear, the only thing that we're really trying to do is just get both of these boxes moving, right?
You want to get both of these boxes through the city, down a number of layers, past some checkpoints, and to the drop point.
Okay. At what point should we determine what equipment we've brought with us?
So, listen, a good point. One of the things I should have had you do before we started was tell me whether you are conspicuous, in which case you get a lot of equipment, but when people see you, they're going to be like, hey, why is that dude got all of that stuff on them? Or standard, in which case people would not take any special notice.
And we have a crew upgrade that gives us more.
Yes.
We have the
Uh,
rigging.
yes. And we haven't decided yet, like, what the rigging specialty is. uh, there. But let me look at that again because has been a bit. So for the rigging, you choose one item class, armor or weapons or tools. What do we think we want to have as the specialty of our group's free range?
Are any of those more bulky than the others typically? Like I would think armor would be, but then we may
Armor
not.
is typically more bulky. It is always two picks.
So are people thinking maybe armor then? If that's what the ability gets us, it gets us, it looks like plus
Yeah.
2 load for each item class.
Yep. It also means that if you want to, you can actually have armor with you, which is normally a heavy item, while you are in using discrete load, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to take something heavy like armor.
So we have plus 2 capacity if it's armor. We get basically 2 free slots for armor,
Two free slots for armor, and people don't notice your armor and stuff.
and we can use it while discrete. Okay, does that
Yeah.
sound good to folks? That feels like a
Okay.
you know
Yeah.
a
So
solid choice. Okay.
right now you have everybody can mark up to 4 points worth of gear with an additional 2 points towards armor, and you just mark those when you want to use them. So Kagito,
Yeah.
come back to you. What do we see you doing? We've got the Sorcerer's Apprentice of these great boxes that are moving along of their own accord, but you do have a ways to go.
Yeah. Um, I wonder, see, this isn't something that my character is really designed for, but I wonder if there's a way to, maybe we can like kind of scout ahead and see if there is any problems coming up in terms of the route that we're planning on taking, any obstacles, people we need to deal with.
I like that. Yeah, that seems reasonable. So as these are moving along, you're kind of scouting out for this particular layer, this route, checking on what it is that you have to deal with there. This feels like it's risky. I mean, there's still some danger here, but I think it's standard effect, so that's always going to be kind of default unless we change that up. Uh, what action do you think is appropriate for this?
It, is it survey, do you think? Because that's
Sure.
sort of like gathering information, well, sensing trouble before it happens, surveying a location to understand what's going on, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
One of the things I'm going to say to you is one of your instincts is going to be, well, it could be this or this. One of the things with Blaze in the Dark is you always have the option to lean into what you want. You always get the final say on that. So if you have an inkling that you want to justify in a way, feel free to do that. I like survey. So you've got one die right now, right?
Yes.
So now you've got a couple of options. If someone's helping you, they could spend a stress to give you another die. You could spend two of your own stress to give yourself another die instead. Um, or you could also, well, actually, you can, somebody can spend stress and you can spend stress. The other thing is, you can also ask for a devil's bargain.
For now, I'll just take 2 stress to push myself.
Okay. So let's have you roll 2d6.
Okay. Okay, just marking stress. 2d6. Here we go. 4
So
is
that is a
high.
4 and a 1. I think that you will scout ahead, um, but you get a little nervous because you do see someone who is seems a little sketchy, who maybe seems like they don't look official, but they are watching out for things, and maybe they've noticed you. They haven't seen the rest of the cargo or anything, but they definitely have their eyes on you. And so that the consequence is I've got a little alarm clock here with 6 ticks on it. And I'm gonna tick a couple of those. You're welcome to resist that if you wish.
And resistance, I'm trying to remember how that works. Okay, so I choose to
Absolutely.
resist a consequence, and
Yeah.
then we make a roll about it.
Yeah. And since this is kind of you were using insight to do this, I'm willing to let you use your insight to resist, which is 3 dice.
So I would roll 3 dice, and then I would take stress equal to 6 minus the highest result.
Correct.
I'm willing to try that. We'll
Oh
try
yeah,
and
with
resist
three
it.
dice, you're losing money not doing that.
Okay, cool. So we'll roll 3 dice. 5 is high.
5 is high, so you're going to mark 1 stress.
One more. Okay.
Yeah. Like, what is it you do to evade this person's like watching out, kind of tracking the area?
I imagine that my character is something of an acrobat.
Okay.
And has sort of this vaguely primal way of moving and sort of a jerky crawling about on all fours, stalking around kind of approach. So maybe they kind of glance over to me and then they look away and then they suddenly do a double take. Wait, did I see someone there? And by then I've kind of like slunk beneath a bridge or something like that, and now I'm like on the underside of it hanging, or maybe along those lines, if that's something that works.
I like that. And the group can slip past this first area with some bridges, making your way down into a little more populated area with these boxes. So there definitely are more people, but you kind of completed the first leg of this jaunt. But I think that we're also the smell is perhaps slightly more pungent. It has a pong, as they say to it. Uh, Lee, you still got a ways to go with this box. You haven't been spotted yet. And right now they are moving. Uh, but of course, like you've got these automatonally moving boxes and a singular smell and some distance to go. What do you want to do?
The thing about Lee, Major Betancourt, is that while he had a sort of a falling out with his benefactors in high society, he was never discharged. He was
Oh, I froze, didn't I?
Major Betancourt is going to, um, uh, you know, stride haughtily up to this crew, crowd of dock workers, in his, in his full military regalia, medals and epaulettes and everything. He's got his sort of, his cane that he's walking with,
Hmm.
um, and his respirator that he sort of, takes down, and he says, "Sailors, I trust that everything is shipshape here. As you may know, there's some important cargo for the upcoming festivities, and well, I've come to make a surprise inspection."
And there's that mixed look. They have a real suspicion of the Drylander folk, and they are nervous. Here, are the others of your crew with you when you're saying this, or have you kind of gone forward alone to do this inspection?
I think it makes the most sense if I have gone forward alone.
Okay. In that case, I think it's standard effect and desperate.
May I declare my fine cover identity?
Absolutely. Do you want to use your find cover identity to make it not desperate or to have greater effect?
I would like to make it not desperate.
Okay. Remember that desperate rolls mean you get to mark XP.
Uh, you know,
I know. I do know. That's why I mentioned it.
I signed up for this game because I wanted to play Blades as hard as I can.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be that if I wasn't playing my character like I was driving a floating sky skiff or skiff. So yeah, let's go. Let's go. What is it? Desperate Great?
Desperate, great effect. Like if you can pull this off, you can get significantly further towards this, and get these people to help out.
Okay. Well, do you suppose that I could use consort for this?
Let's take a look. Connections from your heritage, access to resource information. I'm willing to go with that.
Cool.
So right now you're standing at two dice. Uh, you can get help. You can get pushed. I think you've already established that the people aren't with you, so I don't think you can necessarily get help, but you could push yourself or you could ask for a devil's bargain.
I would like to hear a devil's bargain.
I think a devil's bargain is certainly going to be that I'm going to add a couple of ticks to our clock. I think that's the simplest thing to do. That that this pushes some people's buttons and we do raise the level of alarms slightly, but you'll get an extra die.
It makes sense because people are only on their toes when they know that the health inspectors are coming, people are only dressed up all the way when it's time for school photo day. So yeah, it makes sense that people would be like on high alert. Uh,
Okay.
I'll take that.
So you get to mark because it's desperate action, and you're using consort, you get to mark an XP there on that track for resolve,
Okay.
and you're going to roll three dice.
I am going to roll 3 dice. Um, okay, so that's one, two, three, six-sided dice. Roll it. I
So
got two fives.
two fives. I think that it is they jump too. They haven't realized that these boxes are moving on their own necessarily. And they jump to and they like start to help. And don't notice necessarily that this is going on. They're moving quickly. But I do think that the desperate consequence is that when they do start to move one of those boxes, they're moving very quickly with it, perhaps a little less gently than they ought to. And I think there is a kind of a crunching sound and that smell that for the moment was kind of confined to the immediate like 10, 20 feet around you. There is a roiling of that smell that will blanket the neighborhood.
I I definitely would like to resist this if it.
Okay. That feels like a resolve for the resist.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that this is probably Major Betancourt leaning on his military experience to like bark orders in a sort of authoritative way.
Hmm.
Careful, careful. Um, and I get to roll three six-sided dice again because
Yeah.
I have so many points in resolve. So
Look at that, a six. No stress for you to bark orders. Like, what do we see? What changes here that gets them in line?
he is sort of like stalking up to them. He has sort of like ramrod straight posture, and he's using the tip of his cane to sort of be like, Elbow up there, sailor. Keep that back straight.
Absolutely. They will fall in. They're moving it along. You've moved down closer. You're kind of in the home stretch. The smell is still an issue. Like there are now people noticing it. There's a definitely a trail. It's not that neighborhood wide where this would start to blanket out and there would be people looking for their hazard, but enough people that like if they needed to, they could easily follow you all here if something were to say raise an alert level there. But you're pretty close to getting this to the drop off point um, when uh, you will definitely hear up ahead where you're supposed to drop it off, it sounds like maybe there's some kind of argument going on up there. Let's come to Remy. Um, the boxes are stinking. They're horrible. You've been close to these things. Right now, I think you can feel the stink in your skin at this point.
Mhm.
It's gotten in there. You're a little worried that you'll never get it out of your clothing. Um, but you're pretty close. You need to get this, these things to this last leg, but also it does sound like there's something going on up ahead. What do you want to do,
Yeah.
Remy?
Yeah. Well, Remy never gets to have any fun, but he can take his cue. He had his other ideas, but he's committed enough to the job and to this effect that we're trying to pull off that he's going to stay on task. Um, so yeah, he's going to kick in and use his ghost trick to deal with both the smell and the little magical legs. So I think that's going to be too stressed to do multiple senses.
Yeah.
And we're going to make this seem to be very ordinary and mechanical, like maybe there's just a smell of grease and oil rather than this animal, whatever it is. And this
Okay.
just looks like an ordinary shipping crate. Somebody's shipping machine parts, and we're lugging them off to be delivered.
That seems reasonable. I do think I want to roll for this, though. I think this is you having to juggle a couple of different things to get this working, even with the stress spend. Does that sound fair?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, what do you want to do that with? Do you think this is a tune for your magic or
Mm,
something else?
yeah, I think because it's important to get the illusion right, this would be a tune. The other thing I was looking at was sway to put out the sense of nothing to see here.
Hmm.
But I think it's complex enough that a tune makes sense.
Okay. I think we're still risky standard. I don't think you haven't like raised an alert level. They're not super tense. You've got the things moving. So that's two dice for a tune. Do you want to push yourself?
Yeah, I'll do a push. I'll
Okay.
do too much stress.
All right.
Right. Ooh, not so good. Two, three, and three.
Yes. So, uh, with a fail, we've got a couple of consequences here, and you can decide you're not going to make much forward progress, but you've got two things you need to deal with. Uh, one is that that scrum, that street fight that you've heard ahead is coming, and people are kind of moving out of the way. People are going to see the floating boxes a little bit here. They're going to see something weird is going on with that. Actually, no, let me take that back. I'm going to roll back. People are going to smell that smell to the point that they're going to be freaked out. That's one consequence. The other consequence is that this scrum is actually going to impact into your group. It's very clear that it's a uh, what's the name of the local popular sport? Anyone give me a name for it?
The first thing in my head is Blitzball from
Okay, there is a a pair of blitzball ruffians that are fighting the reds and the greens. They are fighting, and this is a blitzball hooligans fight that is about to smash into you and your group. So we've got two consequences: the stench and the hooligans. Which would you like to resist, or which would you like to resist first? Keeping in mind that other people can resist for you as well. What do you want to start with?
Um, well, let me check with the group. Is anybody else in a position to resist one of those? And because I can do either.
I think resisting the hooligans is definitely going to be a prowess.
Hmm.
Resisting the stench is probably going to be resolve.
I mean, neither are my strong point. I'm more of an insight girl, but whatever. I can do resolve if somebody else needs to do the role. I have two.
I'll volunteer to do resolve. I've done that already.
Okay. Uh, so do we want to start with you, uh, 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 or the hooligans or the stench? Which comes first?
I
Why
think
don't I?
probably.
Why don't I?
Go ahead.
That's okay. I think that I'm going to sort of, I've been like marching alongside these dockers and my comrades, and I think that I am going to say, trying to bend the truth as little as possible. Um, I'm going to sort of call out to the dockers, steady on, men. This fertilizer is going right to the Alcazar. It needs to get there safely.
Yeah. You look at them, their eyes are watering. They're red rimmed at this point. They're keeping tight-lipped. Let's have you roll resolve.
Okay, here I go. I got another.
Oh, no
Yes.
stress there. They're like, yes, okay, Captain. A couple of them are kind of trying to choke themselves to keep going. Somebody's saying, "Oh God, this is worse than the miasma. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's like the smell of death itself in here. Oh." But they are keeping along, and the it is not drawing attention. But we've got these hooligans. Do you want to resist that,
Yep.
Remy? Okay.
I will resist that. Remy is used to dodging through crowds. He's got some dance skills. He's got some choreography skills. So he's going to find where the gaps are and just kind of steer us around where the worst of that is and let us slip past.
Okay. Then let us have you roll two dice.
Right? Oh,
What the
double
what?
sixes. Remy's better at dance than he is at illusion, apparently.
That is a critical. And if you had any stress marked, you would clear one.
I
But
do have stress marked. I just haven't marked it yet
oh yeah,
because I
so
did the push and I did the ghost trick.
then you get to reduce that stress that you've taken by one. What do we see? Like I mean, it's not just your dancing, but you have to lead these people along. So what do we see happen there?
Hmm. I think all of the attention is on this brawl, and Ramey's kind of even maybe encouraging that and positioning himself between the crates and the brawl and kind of joining in a little bit and amping up the belligerence and also just kind of nudging the crates over that way. Y'all go that way while I do this. And before anybody notices, we're past them.
Absolutely. Uh, you've moved past, we've got these hooligans that certainly drawn attention of guards in the areas. You weren't able to make forward progress. You've got this last leg to get to the place that you just need to drop this stuff off. So we come back to Svetlana.
Yes.
We've got kind of a risky situation here between the hooligans that you've moved past, the noise in the area, people coming out to look what's going on, certainly call for guards. What are you doing to get this to where it needs to go?
Hmm. Well, let's see. What could I do? I'm not going to animate another object. Let me see if I've got something else that's different and fun. Um, well, I didn't select specifically what gear I was bringing. That was a mistake. There's a big list. I didn't choose
Oh, but
any.
you don't have to choose until you use it. Yeah. So
Oh,
basically, right now, you could mark gear. You've got
okay.
like 4 ticks worth of gear to mark if you
Hmm.
want to
Yeah,
use it to assist here.
I do. I'm going to say I have so is this a situation where like we like some for example, just some cover. We just need to be not seen for a minute. Or is this something that we're still trying to lay as low as possible?
You've
What do you
got
think?
right now, you have a choice. You could hide out, try and let this
Hmm.
pass, which I think is sort of risky standard, or you could try to conceal yourselves but and keep the forward progress moving, which is a little more desperate.
Yeah, I think let's go desperate because I have some subterfuge tools, or if you prefer, demolition tools. So I think making just filling the area with smoke
Okay.
is the kind of thing she would do. She's like, well, I wish we could do this unseen. I've got an idea. And she pulls out like, I don't know, like a canister full of filthy oil or grease. And she pulls out one of like her little blowtorch and she's going to light it. And it's going to throw massive amounts of thick, black, stinky smoke that might obscure the smell a bit, but also will just make it impossible for people in this immediate area to see us, hopefully moving out of the area.
Absolutely. So marking the gear, do you want to use the
Mhm.
gear to have better effect, like try to close the deal better, or to remove it from a desperate position to a little more controlled for you?
Oh, better effect,
Oh, of
always.
course. All right. Uh, so what do we think? Is that Tinker for using the gear there?
I would think so, right? That
Yeah,
feels right. I mean,
abs
also that's to my benefit, of
it
course.
is.
So I have
Uh,
two in Tinker.
So everyone's kind of around. You've got these sailors with you who are focused on just not breathing and not getting beaten with that cane by the major, and getting this to where it needs to go. Yeah. So right now we're standing at 2 dice.
All right. Is there anything else I can do to add an extra die here? Not that I know of, I guess.
Lee looks like
2 times per score, I can assist a teammate without paying stress.
okay.
Oh,
So
I prepared for this.
uh,
Smart.
So you will get 1 die for that. And then
All
the other
right.
thing you could do is you could push yourself if you wanted to get another die, be 2 stress. Or I could offer you a devil's bargain.
I mean, I've already got three. I like to live dangerously. What the day and with the devil's bargain, it would be like 6 stress minus my high die.
No, the devil's bargain means you get an extra die, but I just say that something happens.
Okay.
But I
Well,
get to I tell you what it is though.
yeah, and then I get to choose whether I accept it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, let's hear it.
I think the devil's bargain is that you've been concentrating on keeping this animation up. I think one of the 2 boxes is going to lose the animation, so it's going to be a little bit behind, a little bit heavier.
Ooh, that's hard. That one kind of cuts against the point of the thing. Tell me about pushing.
Pushing is 2 stress, and you get an extra die.
I'm doing it.
Okay, so 4 dice. Allow me to say this: there's almost no chance you could fail with 4 dice.
Don't say that. Have you, David's seen me roll in Night Witches. I, Snake Eyes is my middle name. Let's see here. Here we go. Okay, a
Five,
five.
4, 4, 4. So uh desperate. So this is you moving along. The smoke hits. You're pushing along, going through, getting. You can see just a little ways to the warehouse you're supposed to leave this in. And I think there are two consequences, neither of them having to deal with people seeing you or raising the alarm. I think the sort of first consequence, and then the second one stacked on it, the first consequence is something in that stink box wakes up. And
Oh
then the
boy.
second consequence is it busting an arm up out of there. So that one has to be dealt with before you can deal with the waking up one.
Can I call it a tentacle?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The tentacle smashes out of this box. Uh, just and you can tell that it has a ripe smell to it.
Mm,
Uh, so would you like to resist the tentacle smashing out?
I think I would, yes.
Okay. So let's see. You were using your tinker. So I'm gonna be
Hmm.
generous and let you use your
Oh,
insight for the resist on that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I certainly wasn't prepared to be attacked by a tentacle, but
Okay.
I use my smoke bomb quickly to, I don't know, distract it. All right, here we go. I'm gonna roll 3 dice, right?
Yep.
6.
So no stress. So if you
Good.
want, you could resist the waking it up as well. The second consequence, or someone else could.
Sure.
Okay, that's prowess.
Oh, I'll let somebody else. I only have one, if that's all right.
Who would like to resist that consequence to make sure that it doesn't happen, that it doesn't awaken?
I
I
mean, I'll
can
do
jump
it
in
if
and do
y'all
that.
want. Yeah.
I can
Okay,
take it.
absolutely. And you had a critical success before. You're absolutely fine.
Of
Hi.
course.
Two
No
dice.
problem here.
Okay,
All right.
take one
Level
stress.
one.
I think that you're moving this along. You're through the gas. I think that box is shifting in an unusual way. It hasn't woken up fully, but it's very clearly there's something wrong with that box in
Hmm.
that way. But I think we see you get to the doors of this place. Uh, Kagito, this warehouse is locked.
Oh.
What do you do?
Well, that's perfectly good. We can work with locked. I mean, I can take
Smoke around you, people screaming, "What's that stench?" Boxes vibrating, hooligans still shouting about the reds and the greens. Guards are coming.
okay. Um, what do we think? Burglary gear? Appropriate place to break in that way,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah.
Mark that.
Tinker, risky standard.
Yep, Tinker sounds right. So that's going to be 2 dice by default. I'm going to push myself for 2 more stress to get that up to 3.
Okay.
That takes me to 5 stress. So we're rolling 3 dice. Let's just see what we get here. 4.
4. I think uh, uh, that there is a pushing forward of people here, like in the smoke and all of this as you're getting this. And I think you're going to take a level 2 harm as you
Ooh.
are smashed against the door.
Just people like coming by and like kind of
It
like a
just
crushing of a crowd.
it's just so many people here. The sailors that you've got with you, your crew, hooligans, street people, guards in the distance. Like it's now just a mess in the smoke. Nobody can see each other. They think there's a miasma outbreak because of the smell. What do you think?
That sounds okay to me. I'm at 5 stress. I don't want to. Yeah, no. Let's take it. So how do I mark level 2 harm? I guess
So
there's
now,
road.
if you resist
Yeah.
it, you would go down to a level 1 harm, which would go away at the end of the thing. A level 2 harm would be essentially a you put a crushed under the level 2 harm box.
Okay. And would we have to spend a downtime action to heal that?
So yeah, healing. It will go. Level 2 harm requires healing to get cleared. Level 1 harm will clear at the start of the downtime phase because of the way things operate.
Okay. And does it cost you a downtime action to heal level 2 down to level 1?
Yes, it does.
It does. And how do I
Mhm.
reduce stress in between?
Well,
Um,
that is the indulge in your vice downtime action, which you're going to be doing anyway because your stress
okay.
level. So you might as well resist it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Or
fair.
I can
Yeah.
jump in and resist if you'd rather. Either or.
Oh, can you resist on my behalf?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
Remy's shielding Kogito while you're trying to get the store open.
Well, you're at 4 stress. I'm at 5. I'm just as happy to resist it.
Okay, either way.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's have you roll prowess. Cogito,
uh,
which is 3 dice.
yeah, no, this is just as well because I think I've got 3 more. Yeah, I've got more dice. So 3
Now,
dice.
I'll tell you the other thing. I'm going to stop you before you do this. The
Mm,
other thing that you could do is how much of your gear have you marked? Just the burglary tools, right?
burglary tools, and I also took a couple of items
But
already.
you don't have to, but you didn't use them, did you?
Haven't used them yet, no.
Then they aren't spent. So
Okay,
you haven't
so
taken them in. You could you could mark your armor, which is 2 boxes out of the 4 that you have left, and that would reduce that to a level 1 harm.
oh well, I'll do that then because we've got the rigging anyway, so
Yeah.
the armor's practically free.
Yeah, this is just we're trying out the mechanics. So I just want to show you like the way that this goes. So you mark your armor, you mark 2 boxes. That means that you get hit, but it takes it. What do you think your armor is that it is so concealed? Is it like some sort of magical gel suit, or is it straps, or is it BDSM wear, or is it something else? Like what do you think it
Yeah,
is?
but I'm thinking some kind of black, biologically kind of like biosynthetic material
Okay,
that's vaguely fused to my body, but can be removed. But yes, it does have kind of a sleek, almost latexy look to it.
okay, and you'll get this popped open, and you can all fall kind of into this warehouse with these boxes. You can get this thing dropped where it needs to go. Um, there's only one thing left, which kind of falls in Lee's lap here, is how are you like dispersing crowds and the sailors and stuff to get this like cleared and secured here?
Lee is going to snap to attention. He's going to say, "Sailors, I have rarely seen such resolve, and I have been on the front lines of some of our, uh, most furious battles. Um, I'll see to it that you receive a little bonus uh, in your paychecks at the end of the week. Your service to the city uh, has not gone overlooked." And he sort of, you know, tips his head for the first time, like breaking the decorum. Uh, Better we get this out of our neighborhood sooner rather than later. Let the dry folks deal with the smell.
Consort?
That's what I'd like to go for.
I
Yeah.
think that's more than reasonable.
Um, so right now I have 2 dice, and I haven't taken any stress at all. So
Yeah, you, major my major. Look at that.
I'm gonna push a little bit.
Okay.
See if there's anything else that I can do. Yeah, I'm going to I said that I was going to throw in a little bit of extra for them. I'm going to produce a fine bottle of whiskey.
Okay. So standard, great effect, I think, with the whiskey in hand,
All
and 3 dice.
right. So here we go. I rolled a 4.
So I think the only consequence, I think you're going to get them out of here. They're gonna head back to their own neighborhood. You're gonna get these doors shut so that the whatever's fighting is going outside is not going to affect things. But I do think the only consequence is that there's one of these sailors who looks like he's sharper than the others, and you see him stop and look and like make a note of your face in that way that he's going to tell somebody later and maybe raise the heat on your group unless you'd like to resist that.
I think it's more interesting that this happens than that it doesn't happen.
Okay. I will add another box to the heat track then. The door slams shut. You put these boxes down with the smoke and the noise outside kind of shut off. That box goes a little more quiescent. It's just kind of vibrating. The smell is still acutely present. Uh, but you've just been told to drop these boxes off, and you can slip out the back and get out of here if that's what you want to do. Hearing no comments to the negative, you are out and cheese it. Let's take 5 and we'll come back and do the post score process. So we see, the montage of you all drifting back. I think Kogito was the only person who suffered any kind of harm. When we go into this phase, that level 1 harm goes away as you get a chance to catch your breath if you had it, but armor took the brunt of that. Uh, and we will see a strong box delivered to your group, which will hand you 6 coin for the job, which is a good standard job, which means everybody can take a coin. And then there's 2 more that you can put into the coffers of the crew there. So I'll click those. So we have 3 coin to go. Remember, you can only hold up to 4 coin unless you eventually get vaults for your crew. Otherwise, you have to kind of hand it out to people. But you've got some coin there. Uh, Now, that was great, right? Um, think for this first mission, we're not going to have the boss who you deal with ask for money quite yet. We'll save that particular cost. Uh, but we are going to look at heat. So we have 1 heat marked from the witness. Uh, it wasn't a high profile target. It didn't necessarily happen on hostile turf. You're not at war with anyone. And remarkably, I will say, given what has happened most times I've run Blades in the Dark, you didn't kill anyone. So no extra heat for that. But I do think this was a little loud and chaotic. So I'm going to put 4 heat on top of the 1 you got, which will take us to 5. And that means that once we've got that set, I roll entanglement. So I roll a d6. And that is a 4. So let's look at that. I think that you will find that over the course of the next week or so, that something has stuck to you from this job. You're not sure what it is, if it's something from touching those boxes or something, and there is a spot in your HQ that starts to have that smell. It's it's just a little bit at first, and people scrub and clean, like, okay, did we drop something? Did something fall under the floorboards? That kind of thing doesn't take care of it. And so you've got this spot that it definitely feels a little fecund, and it definitely has a smell that is hanging around you, like something is growing there. Does that seem like a reasonable entanglement? Okay. So we've done entanglements, and then the next thing that we would do is we would do your downtime actions. However, I like to give those downtime actions a little chance to breathe. I like to go around. We also do some RP scenes in them, give it a chance to expand. So what I want to do is put a pin in those, and we're going to start next session with that. That'll give us a chance to play those out to make those feel a little more vital. And what I want to do is do our end of session XP both for yourselves and for your crew. Uh, Now, this is the one section of the rules that I've run this game 100 times, and I can still never find it when I go to look for it in the book. So bear with me for a second. Absolutely, literally mean this. Where is it? Just after downtime. Oh, you would think it would be right after downtime, but it is not. Okay, XP. Forty. Okay. Whew, look at that. That was a long time to me to find it. I even have it marked with little stickers on the thing, and I still couldn't find it. All right. So, anyone who rolled a desperate action, you got a point towards that particular kind of roll when you rolled that. But now we're going to go around, and the XP that you get now, you can assign to any of the tracks that you want. You can send it to one of the ability tracks, or you can send it to the one of the action tracks, or to one of the ability tracks. So we ask this question first. For Svetlana, what are your playbook specific XP triggers or
So
trigger?
mine says you addressed a challenge with a show of technical skill or devices.
Ooh,
And I think I did when I created the smoke bomb.
okay. Do you think you did that once or a couple of times? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think I clearly did it once, unless Ghost in the Machine counts. I mean, I don't,
You've described your stuff as technological, so I think
yeah,
that's
I did
reasonable.
I shot a weird gun at it. So that would be
Yeah.
twice.
Let's give you 2 XP for that.
Okay. Oops, wrong button.
Do you
That.
think that you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Um, I don't know. Let's see if I could work it. I don't know. Where did I record those? I don't even remember what those are for me, to be honest.
Well, so it's about like being a disgraced Drylander. Your background is an
Okay.
engineer.
I mean,
What your character feels is their goal here.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that she was, I think mildly.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
give you one point for
Yeah.
because you did lean into your technological skills and your background. You focused in
Yeah.
on that, so we'll give you that
Hmm.
that point.
Okay. Now, does that go
Uh,
in playbook as well?
You can put it in playbook, you can put it in insight, prowess, or resolve. Anywhere you want to
Okay.
put those.
Oh, all three can go anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. And then like if I get to five on insight, I get to add a dot.
that is
If
correct.
I fill the playbook, I get a new move.
If
That's
you
the
fill it
idea.
up, it is actually 6 ticks because I need to reduce the font size of those things.
Oh,
Uh,
for playbook?
yeah, I think it's for playbook and
Oh,
the other ones. Yeah.
because playbook has more than six. It has like eight.
Oh, that's right.
I just assumed it was harder to get a playbook move. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is 8 for that. I believe it is 6. Yeah, it's 6 for insight,
Okay.
prowess, or
Well,
resolve.
I'm gonna add them all to playbook because
Okay,
there's so many
special
fun moves in
abilities
there.
are fun. So,
Yeah.
um, uh, so that's that.
Hmm.
Let's come to Kagito. Kagito, what is your playbook specific XP trigger?
You address a challenge with technical skill or mayhem. So I think once, because I busted into the warehouse at the very end using burglary gear.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you an XP for that.
Okay.
Do you think we saw or experienced or you expressed your beliefs, your drives, your heritage, or your background?
Probably not. My guess is that that's going to show up more during downtime actions next session, but this
Okay.
one was just kind of a quick snippet and during a mission.
I think that's
Um,
fair. Yeah.
Same probably goes for the next
Yeah.
prompt to struggling with issues from vice or traumas.
Yes.
We'll get into all of that
We'll
during
definitely
downtime.
get that. Let's see if we can get some people some traumas, so you can deal with them because they become the way this handles is they're a little bit easier than base blades. You can get them and they become nice, easy XP triggers rather than taking you out of the scene kind of thing.
Right.
Lee, what is your playbook specific XP trigger?
Uh, did I or did I not address a challenge with calculation or conspiracy?
Hmm. I think you did that a couple of times there. Let's have you mark two on that.
I'm not as good at it as maybe the slide would be, but I can put that hat on when I need.
Yeah. Um, do you think you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Certainly my background. I th
Yeah. I actually think a couple of times you kind of were pushing on that a little bit at the start, and I think throughout the mission. So let's have you mark twice on that.
Cool.
No, nothing for vice or traumas yet. Remy, what is your playbook specific XP trigger?
There's a challenge with artistry and misdirection.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think we had a couple of times for you on that using your gifts. You addressed it. You weren't as successful the second time, but yeah, let's
Yep.
give you two for that.
So that
Um,
artistry didn't succeed, but I tried it.
yeah. Do you
Misdirection worked.
do you think you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
I do think there was some of that in there. I think Raymond was wanting to add some mischief or add some interest into this job
Yeah.
and reluctantly decided not to when it looked like the job was maybe going wrong and he had to step in and play it straight instead.
All right. Yeah. Let's have you mark XP for that. One of the things I think we'll talk about at the beginning of next session when we do downtime is like kind of decide on a goal for your character. Like what do they want? What are they looking for kind of in that proactive role-playing way? Like what's a good goal that they can work towards with RP scenes or during a mission or so on that can succeed and get you something or could possibly fail. But something that you want to do that will have happen that we can get XP trigger for. Um, the next thing is the crew advancement. So I go to the crew sheet and I mark XP on that. Where is it? Oh, it's right there. So you did successfully executed a burglary slash smuggling operation. I think more the burglary side of things here. Um, I do think that you were dealing potentially the people who actually own this are a little bit above your station. So we'll give you an XP trigger. They are tier two. Do you think you bolstered your crew's reputation? You are
Yeah,
daring.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I
we
mean,
walked
yeah,
in
we
and walked
were
right out with a couple of big boxes of official stuff.
Okay.
I think that's daring.
Um,
very
and
impressive.
and I think we in setting up the crew, in building everything up, in the way that you approach the negotiations, I think that we got the first expressions of how your crew operates. So I'm going to give you two ticks for that. And put that on the table. Um, and so we'll start next time with goals uh, and downtime and work through that and maybe see a little more of the daily lives. Maybe we can do some NPC interactions, PC interactions, get those scenes. But I do want to wrap today with stars and wishes, if you're all good with that. Stars being things that you dug, about other people's play, about the game, mechanical moments, anything like that, and wishes being like things that you want to see for your character going forward, like particular things you'd like to lean into or see. So Gwen, can I start with you?
Sure. Stars all around. I had a blast, but let me name a few special things. I really enjoyed watching Lee take command there. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Remy uh, being a chaos agent.
Mhm.
I kind of wish we had come up with your and followed through on your plan to like replace the package with a like a phony package that like I don't know, when they open it up it like explodes with glitter or something like. But it ended up those giant crates. I mean, since we didn't know what we were finding there, it would have been hard to come prepared with a replacement. But I loved that idea, and I want more of that. I want us to be not just burglars, but like pranksters. That would be kind of fun. Um, I mean, it's funny, David. One of the things I really loved about your character, Night Witches, was the like, not the internal conflict stuff, and I think, and that your character was clearly a torn, and I can see that happening with Kojito too, in a way. Like this is a rich and complicated person, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how you continue to I would say disentangle, but it's
Yeah.
actually just going to get further entangled. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And Lowell, you are clear. It's so clear that you've run 100 of this something of this game because the flow is impressive. I know that if I were running a Forged in the Dark game or Blades in the Dark, it would be constantly like, okay, what's next, right? Because I need like a big flow chart to figure out you know, what phase we're in and what does that mean. And yes, so it made for like the best possible Blades in the Dark kind of
Oh,
intro. So thank you again for that. Wishes, I'm really looking forward to the downtime actions. One of the things I struggle with, to be honest, with Forged in the Dark games is that it's so structured. I find myself missing the more open, free form role play moments. There's just so little opportunity for like characters talking to each other.
mhm.
Um, and I want more of that. So I'm looking forward to that in the downtime actions because I know that's like where that's best placed a lot of the times. So I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. Uh, uh, Very much so. Uh, David?
Yeah, I think as far as stars go, mirroring a lot of what Gwen said, Lee, I really enjoyed the part where you turned into a military guy and were getting everybody in ship shape. For some reason, I was picturing the Major General from Pirates of Penzance. I have no
Yeah.
idea why, but that's a compliment. I thought it worked well. Gwen, I thought the decision to go right in with animating the craze to have it kind of walk off on its own, perfect, loved it. Annie, like others are saying, I liked the idea to prank them, and I think we should do that in the future. I wish we had gotten a chance to do that. Lowell, just thank you for running as always. It's always lovely getting to play with you. A strange special shout out to everyone. I liked looking at everybody's coffee mugs. Everyone has very neat coffee mugs, and I was mentally thinking, oh, I really like Annie's mug and Gwen's mug and Lowell's mug. So, anyway. I think I'll mirror what Gwen said as far as wishes are concerned. With Forged in the Dark games, I've run into issues before where downtime actions, everyone kind of just wants to get them out of the way quick so that we can get back into the action.
Hmm.
And when that happens, I find that there's almost no character development or role play because downtime, I think, is where a lot of that happens. So I'm more than happy to let downtime breathe a little bit to have some heart to hearts and also I want to kind of get creative with how we describe downtime actions. I think sometimes people just do, I'm going to have a conversation with this character. Next downtime action, I'm going to have a conversation with this character. And we just have conversations. I like downtime actions where it's like, I'm going to have a conversation with this character while we're running from the cops.
Yeah.
Something like that is kind of a way to put a little bit of flavor to it. So I am kind of trying to move things in that direction. Um, just getting more of my character and their personal feelings and backstory and all that stuff in it. But that'll happen anyway, I'm sure. So that's all I
Okay.
got.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, Ian?
Yeah, I got a lot of stars. I got to use my book, which is nice. I am very, I have played a little bit, not as much as I would like, with David and Gwen in the past, and so it's it's always, it has been a thrill to see you play before, and it's a thrill now. Um, And it's been such a joy to get to play with you for the first time, Annie. I thought that I could really, really picture the image of Remy, like just kind of conducting the crowd over this way, and like the kind of like careful acupuncture of that is like it's very vivid in my mind. Um, and similar to what some others have said, it's interesting watching your sort of veteran hand at running the blades sort of format. I have run some blades before here on the Open Hearth, and um, I find that the transition between the phases always there is some energy lost to entropy there.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in games that are more complicated and have a lot of moving parts. So I am watching and I am learning. Um, as far as wishes go, yeah, I think that we really got a taste this time of like what some of these characters are capable of. I think I would especially like to see um more of the kind of like outre like weird stuff from our coiner and from the playbook that Kajito is playing, which I don't remember the name of at the moment. Um, it seems as though there's a lot of like strangeness going on under the hood, or the potential for some like eerie or like otherworldly uh, aspects, and I'm excited to see that happen. And also, yeah, I agree with what people have said about the feeling of strict structure. And I have found that in the absence of any kind of procedure to like encourage uh, RP, the best way to do it is to just like step in boldly.
Mm.
And so that's a goal that I'm setting for myself. And I look forward to like, um, you know, all of us taking our characters' lives in our hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's my wish.
Okay. Annie.
Um, yeah, kind of the same as a lot of what people have said, so I'll try not to duplicate. Um, with Kogito, the moment I love that stood out was um the strange movements as a way to resist the being observed, and nope, I'm suddenly under the bridge. It's just a nice little unexpected moment that I thought really painted the character. Um, People have called out Major Lee's military side. I also wanted to call out the negotiation side, that
Oh.
automatically stepping into, I'm the business person. I'm gonna to settle the terms of this job, and we're gonna go from there. Which glad somebody did that because that wasn't gonna be me. Um, for Svetlana, um, I love the details they brought to it. Like it wasn't just tinker around with it. It was tinker with it, get the tools out, do this, do that, and then pull out a ray gun and shoot it with the ray gun. And
Mm.
that's what makes it work. It's like, yes, I love the ray gun. Um, Kind of to build on what everybody said. Well, I'll do that in wishes. Lowell, the thing I wanted to call out was the way you took our kind of chaotic world building and put some structure on it, turned it into actual factions and an actual functioning city is great. And that gives us a little bit more of a playground to work in. So thank you for that. I love that. Um, Wish is kind of along the lines of what everybody said about the leaning into the pranks, and kind of the specific angle I'm taking on those is yes, be chaos agent, but also in a subversive way. So my thought for the prank this time would have been replace the foreign plant material with something local that would make a statement.
Mm.
So, something very pungent smelling, or something, something carnivorous, or, something that would stand out if they didn't notice and tried to plant it. So that's kind of the direction I'm going to be leaning.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how we can work that in there. Um, and then just, yeah, I want to see how our very different characters bounce off each other and build up into a cohesive whole because I can see the beginnings of that there, but there's a long way to go.
Excellent. A couple of things I'll mention. Uh, there are a couple of mechanical bits that we didn't hit today that eventually we're going to hit. One of the things, of course, uh, we didn't have a long, too high pressure situation, but of course there are flashbacks. Allows you to describe your characters having set something up ahead of time, spend stress to get things into position either for fictional positioning or to give yourself a benefit, those kinds of things. So that's a mechanic that I want to make sure that we hit and explore. The other one is group actions. We didn't really have an opportunity for that. It wasn't really the necessary for this one, but that's another mechanic that sometimes gets overlooked where, somebody needs to lead the stealth team or that kind of thing. So those are options that are out there that I want to make sure over the next couple of sessions we explore those and get a chance to see those on the screen. The other thing is you have your contacts. Um, so find a picture of your contacts and put them in the NPC tab. I've got the first couple of columns are for PCs, friends, rivals, and contacts. So you can put your friends, you can put your rivals in there as you have time. I've got a couple of NPCs, pictures of Ram Schned and the leader of the philosophical zombies is there as well already in there. I'll probably put some other faces in over this week just to add some more color, and we'll get those. So just throw that out there. I am going to stop the recording if I can find my mouse.